Welcome to the Explainer. So let's just dive right into it, shall we? Today, we are going to completely shift your perspective. We're moving away from just blindly writing React code to truly understanding how React actually thinks under the hood. If you've ever felt like React is just this weird, magical black box, well, this is going to be a total game changer for you.
We've got a pretty packed roadmap for today. We're going to hit the React mental model, mastering state pitfalls, rethinking the UseEffect hook, escaping props drilling, unlocking the power of custom hooks, and finally, leveling up your React.
Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, the React mental model. Let's kick things off by completely shattering some common misconceptions about how React actually updates what you see on your screen.
Okay, why is my state 1 render behind? Man, if you have ever screamed that exact question at your monitor, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. This happens because a React component is, at the end of the day, literally just a JavaScript function. And here's the absolutely crucial mental shift. React calls that function completely fresh on every single render. That means every single variable declared inside that component, it's created brand new, from scratch, for that specific render.
And this perfectly illustrates the real mental shift you need to make. React basically divides its work into two completely distinct phases. First, you've got this pure render phase, where it calculates all the changes behind the scenes. It's really just math and logic, totally interruptible. Then there's the commit phase, and that is when React actually reaches out and touches the browser DOM.
So looking at this lifecycle timeline, we can see exactly when our hooks are actually interacting with the browser. You've got mounting, updating, and then unmounting, which is where that crucial cleanup phase runs. Truly internalizing this timeline is how we make sure we don't accidentally trigger wild infinite loops or cause massive memory leaks in our apps.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering State Pitfalls. Let's see how this mental model actually helps us solve the most frustrating bugs in state management.
So the real kicker here is understanding JavaScript closures. This is a feature where a function essentially remembers the variables from its lexical scope at the exact moment it was created. Now, this isn't just some weird React quirk, okay? It's a core language feature. Because your component variables are captured exactly at the time they're created, using a timer or an interval in React often ends up trapping a stale state value. Your interval just keeps on running, but it's looking at the state from the very first render, totally oblivious to any updates that happen since.
Thankfully, the fix for this is incredibly simple. To escape that stale closure trap, you just pass an updater function directly to your state setter. By grabbing the previous value and adding 1 to it, you are flat out guaranteeing that React is going to hand you the absolute latest, most up-to-date value. Boom, stale closure bypassed entirely.
Now this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. The profound difference between primitives and objects. Strings and numbers are passed by their actual value. But objects and arrays? They are passed by their memory address. Think of an object literally like a cardboard box. Even if you have two boxes packed with the exact same contents, there are still two completely different physical boxes. So if you pass a newly created object into state, React just sees a brand new memory address, a completely new box, and it's going to trigger a re-render every single time, even if the data inside hasn't changed one bit.
All right, Section 3, Rethinking the UseEffect hook. Let's tackle what is easily the most misunderstood hook in the entire ecosystem.
Look, I really want you to just forget about legacy life cycles like component did mount. Seriously, forget them. Listen to this golden rule instead. UseEffects synchronizes your component with something external. That one heavy-hitting quote completely redefines what UseEffect even is. It's a tool strictly meant to synchronize your React code with outside systems. We are talking about fetching from APIs, manually attaching DOM events, setting up subscriptions. If it is not external, it probably does not belong in a UseEffect.
And that naturally brings us to the dependency array. You absolutely must declare every single reactive variable you use inside that effect right there in the dependency array. This is a strict declaration rule, not some optional, nice-to-have performance optimization. If you leave a value out, your effect is just going to run using outdated, stale data. No way around it.
So what are the top ways developers trip up here? First off, missing cleanup functions. If a user rapid-fires a button to fetch data and you don't cancel those previous requests using a native browser tool like an abort controller, you're going to get race conditions where old data just overwrites the new data. Also, and this is huge, never, ever use an effect just to calculate derived state. If you have a quantity and a price, you absolutely do not need an effect just to calculate the total price. Just do the math directly in the component body.
Okay, Section 4, Escaping Props Drilling. Let's figure out how to solve the massive headache of passing data through a wildly complex maze of components.
We all know and hate props drilling, right? It's when you have a crucial piece of data at the very top of your app, and you desperately need it at the very bottom. So what do? You pass it as a prop to a child, then to a grandchild, then to a great-grandchild. It totally clutters your architecture, because all those components in the middle don't even care about the data. They are literally just acting as messengers.
To completely sidestep this, we use the Context API, which acts like a direct teleporter. And the steps are super easy. Step 1, create the context. Step 2, wrap your parent components in a provider to supply the data. And step 3, way down at the deeply nested child, you just pop in the useContext hook to grab the data directly. You entirely bypass all those intermediate messenger components.
Next up, Section 5, the power of custom hooks. Let's unlock the true superpower of React by adhering to the famous DRY principle. Don't repeat yourself.
You know, I see so many developers getting completely terrified of custom hooks, thinking there's some kind of dark magic, but they are literally just regular helper functions. If you have this messy logic for syncing data to local storage or tracking window resizing, you do not want that cluttering up your beautiful UI component. You just extract it out.
Creating them is literally a 3-step process. You just start the function name with the word use, like use local storage. You drop your state and effect logic right inside that function, and then just return the values you need. Instantly, you have a clean, reusable block of logic that you can share anywhere across your entire application without ever duplicating code. It's brilliant.
And finally, Section 6, leveling up your React. Let's take a look at how you can actively wire these mental models into your brain through actual practice.
Listen, the absolute only way to cement all this knowledge is by getting your hands dirty and building. Don't just watch explainers like this one. Start with a to-do app. This forces you to master state and array manipulation. Then, step it up to a weather app to truly master UseEffect and external API fetching. Finally, build an expense tracker to force yourself to implement custom hooks and the Context API.
So here is your grand takeaway for today. React isn't magic, it's just JavaScript. Literally. If you thoroughly understand closures and memory references, you basically already understand React. So I'll leave you with this question. Are your foundational JavaScript skills truly ready for the framework, or is it maybe time to revisit the basics before you blame the hooks? Keep building, keep learning, and thanks so much for joining this explainer.